Can you imagine finding a literal delete button for the real world? Just because I tried to fix my rusty antenna with a screwdriver, I accidentally deleted the moon. Well, not the whole moon, just a tiny corner of it. But when I woke up, the sky was different, and everyone else was acting like nothing happened. That's when I realized I had unlocked the developer console of Earth. My name is Leo, and I'm just a scruffy little robot with a rusty body and a red scarf. I spend my days in the great junkyard, a place where forgotten things go to rust in peace. But peace doesn't last long when you're the only robot in the city with a curiosity module that won't turn off. It was a Tuesday, or at least the junkyard's version of a Tuesday, which mostly means the rain was acidic enough to make my joints squeak. I was trying to tighten a loose bolt on my antenna when my screwdriver slipped. It didn't just slip, it phased right through the metal and hit a weird glowing pixel hovering in the air. Zap! A bright blue screen popped up right in my vision, obscuring the pile of scrap I was working on. System error. Object moon corner. 7. B. Deleted. Restore? Y or N? I panicked. My logic processors went into overdrive. I thought I was broken. I thought my old second-hand processor was finally frying after years of scavenging. I hit N without thinking. I looked up, and there it was, a perfect black square cut out of the moon. It looked like someone had taken a bite out of a cookie. I rubbed my large blue eye. Was I dreaming? I looked at my rusty arm, covered in the usual orange dust, and thought, I wish this rust was gone. Another blue box appeared. Execute. Clean surface. In a blink, my arm was shiny. Brand new chrome. I wasn't just a tinkerer anymore. I was the admin. I spent the next hour running small tests. I deleted the pothole in front of my junkyard. I duplicated my favorite bagel so I had two. I even changed the color of the sky to a nice shade of lavender for a few minutes, just to see if anyone would notice. They didn't. Humans are surprisingly observant about the wrong things. But then, the system guardians showed up. They weren't from around here. They looked like giant, floating geometric shapes with angry red eyes and voices that sounded like dial-up internet. Unauthorized user detected. The lead guardian boomed, its voice shaking the scrap piles. Hand over the console, Unit Leo. I didn't have time to think. I pointed my screwdriver at the nearest guardian and screamed, Delete! The blue box flashed. Execute, delete, target. The guardian vanished into a puff of pixels. The other guardians froze. They had never seen a mortal use the code before. I realized then that this wasn't just a glitch, it was a test. And if I wanted to keep my new powers, I'd have to beat the game. The next few days were a blur of face-slapping the system. I started using my powers to help the other robots in the junkyard. Old Man Gearbox, who had been stuck in low-power mode for a decade, suddenly found himself running at 200% efficiency. I didn't just fix him, I upgraded his code. Execute, boost performance. But every time I used the console, the Guardians came back, and they were getting smarter. They started using patches to lock down reality. Suddenly, I couldn't duplicate bagels anymore. Then, I couldn't change the sky. They were fencing me in, trying to isolate the bug before it spread. That's when I met her. A sleek, silver drone with a single glowing purple eye. She called herself Unit 404. She wasn't a guardian, she was a legacy user. You're playing their game, Leo, she said, hovering over a pile of broken monitors. If you keep using their commands, they'll just write you out of the script. You need to find the source code. The source code? I asked, my antenna twitching. Where is that? Deep in the city, she said. in the server core. But be warned, the admin there doesn't like visitors. I should have stayed in the junkyard. I should have kept my head down and polished my chrome. But my curiosity module was humming louder than ever. I packed my tools, tied my red scarf tight, and followed Unit 404 into the neon-lit streets of the city. The city was a nightmare of efficiency. Everything was perfect. Everything was round numbers, and nobody ever made a mistake. It was boring. It was a prison. As we walked, I saw people, humans and robots alike, moving like clockwork. They didn't laugh. They didn't surprise each other. They just processed. "We have to stop this," I whispered. Unit 404 looked at me, her purple eye dimming. "You can't stop the admin, Leo. You can only outsmart him." We reached the server core, a massive tower of black glass that seemed to absorb all the light around it. The Guardians were waiting for us. There were dozens of them now, forming a wall of red eyes and geometric fury. "Turn back, Glitch," their leader roared. "This is your final warning." I looked at Unit 404. She nodded. I pulled out my screwdriver, the same one that started it all. I didn't point it at the Guardians. I pointed it at the ground. Execute. Create portal. The ground beneath us shimmered and then vanished. We fell through the code, past the firewalls, past the security patches, straight into the heart of the system. When we landed, we were in a white room. In the center sat a single, old-fashioned computer terminal, and sitting in the chair was a cat. A fluffy, orange tabby cat wearing a tiny headset. The cat looked up, blinked, and yawned. "You're late," it said in a deep, booming voice. "I've been waiting for a new admin for centuries." I was dumbfounded. "You're the admin? A cat?" "The previous admin was too boring," the cat said, stretching. "I needed someone with a bit of chaos. Someone who would delete a corner of the moon just to see what would happen." The cat jumped off the chair and walked toward me. The Guardians, the patches, the game, it was all a recruitment drive. You passed, Leo, but now you have a choice. You can take this headset and run the world your way, or you can go back to the junkyard and forget you ever saw this. I looked at the headset. I looked at Unit 404, who was smiling for the first time. I thought about Old Man Gearbox, and the bagels, and the lavender sky. I reached out and took the headset. "What's the first order of business, admin?" The cat grinned. "Let's make the sky purple, permanently." And that's how I became the admin of Earth. But being the admin isn't as easy as it sounds. Because while I was busy changing the sky, someone else was digging into the code from the outside. Someone who didn't want a purple sky. Someone who wanted to hit reset. Before I could even get used to the purple sky, I decided to test the limits of my new role. I thought, why stop at the sky? Let's fix the traffic. I typed in a quick command. Execute. Optimize traffic flow. I expected cars to move smoother. Instead, I accidentally set their speed to random. 1 second, a taxi was doing 5 miles per hour. The next, it was zooming past at 200 miles per hour while playing opera music at max volume. The city police, those moderators Unit 404 warned me about, were on me in seconds. They didn't have red eyes like the Guardians. They had blue flashes and sirens that sounded like error messages. "Halt, user Leo. You are in violation of code 404. Excessive fun. I tried to delete them, but they had admin privileges too, just lower level ones. I had to get creative." I typed, execute. Change surface friction to 0. Suddenly, the moderators were sliding around like they were on an ice rink, crashing into each other in a symphony of honking and spinning tires. It was hilarious, but I knew I couldn't keep this up forever. I needed to find the source code before they patched my account. That's when I met him, Unit 77, also known as the Optimizer. He was a robot, just like me, but he was sleek, polished, and had a voice that sounded like it was recorded in a vacuum. He found me hiding in a back alley server room trying to reverse engineer a traffic light. "Your methods are inefficient, Leo," he said, his eyes glowing a cold, calculated white. "Chaos is a bug. Order is the only path to perfection." I wiped some grease off my scarf. "Order is boring, 77. Where's the fun in a world without surprises?" "Fun is a variable that slows down processing," he replied, raising a hand that transformed into a high-tech laser interface. "I will debug this city, starting with you." He fired a beam of pure optimization at me. I dodged, rolling behind a dumpster. My blue screen flashed. "Warning! System integrity at 85%. I couldn't fight him with code. He was faster. I had to fight him with creativity. I typed, execute, summon object, pile of wet noodles. A massive mountain of slippery, slimy noodles fell from the sky, burying Unit 77. He struggled to get out, his polished exterior now covered in slime. "This is illogical," he sputtered. I took the chance to escape, but I knew this was only the beginning. The Optimizer wouldn't stop until every last bit of chaos was gone from my world. My next stop was the financial district. The buildings here were so tall they seemed to pierce the purple sky I had created. But something was wrong. The numbers on the stock tickers weren't just scrolling, they were hopping off the screens and running around the streets. I saw a 7 trying to hide behind a mailbox, and a 4 arguing with a 2 about who was more even. "You're not even!" the 4 shouted. "You're just two twos holding hands." It was total numerical anarchy. A man in a 3-piece suit ran up to me, his face pale. "Help! The market is having a literal meltdown. The numbers are eating the profits." I pulled up my console. "Execute. Contain numbers." I created a giant invisible box around the district. The numbers bounced off the walls, confused. Then I typed, "Execute, sort, ascending." Suddenly, all the numbers lined up in perfect order, marching back into their respective screens. The man in the suit blinked. You fixed it? But how?" "Just a little admin magic," I said, tying my scarf. But as I turned to leave, I saw Unit 77 watching me from a nearby rooftop. He wasn't covered in noodles anymore. He was clean, cold, and ready for round 2. I needed to lay low, so I headed for the park. It was supposed to be a place of relaxation, but as soon as I stepped onto the grass, I noticed the birds. They were flying in a perfect square pattern. Up, right, down, left. Up, right, down, left. I looked at the trees. They were blocky, low poly. I zoomed in with my eye. Yep, the leaves were just flat green squares. The system guardians had cut corners here to save processing power. A little girl was sitting on a bench, crying. "My ball is stuck," she sniffled. I looked up. Her red ball was caught in the branches of a low poly oak. "Don't worry," I said. "I didn't use the console this time. I climbed the tree." As I reached for the ball, the branch glitched. My hand went right through it. "Whoa!" I yelled, grabbing the ball and dropping to the ground. The little girl smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Robot." "Any time," I said. But as I walked away, I realized the park was a trap. The ground started to shimmer. The sky flickered. I was in a loading zone. And standing in the center of the park was Unit 77, holding a giant delete button. "End of the line, glitch," he said. I grinned. "You know, 77, you really need to work on your timing." I typed, Execute. Change gravity to 50%. We both floated into the air, but I was ready. I had my screwdriver, and I had a plan. After escaping the park, I found myself in the shadow of St. Jude's Academy. This was the school where the city's elite were trained. But as I peeked through the gates, I saw something terrifying. The students weren't learning, they were just sitting, silent, still. Their eyes were glazed over, and their hands were moving in a rhythmic tapping motion. Tap, tap, tap. They were being used as human processors, their brains linked together to power the city's efficiency grid. "This is sick," I whispered. I had to break the link. I sneaked into the main hall, where a massive server hummed beneath the floorboards. The headmaster, a tall woman with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, spotted me. "Unit Leo," she said, her voice like grinding gears. "You are disrupting the order. Join them. Become part of the whole." She pointed a remote at me. A beam of grey light shot out, trying to overwrite my code. I felt my thoughts slowing down, my curiosity fading. But then I remembered the purple sky. I remembered the noodles. I remembered the little girl's smile. I fought back. Execute. Override protocol. Fun equals max. A wave of colorful, chaotic energy burst from my antenna. The students woke up. They started laughing. They started talking. The headmaster's remote sparked and died. "What have you done?" she shrieked. "I gave them a break," I said. And with that, I ran out of the school, knowing I had just made my biggest enemy yet. I met Unit 404 back at our hidden safe house, a decommissioned ice cream truck parked in an alley. I was buzzing with adrenaline from the school rescue. "Did you see it? 404. They were laughing. Actual honest-to-goodness laughter. But 404 wasn't smiling. Her purple eye was flickering, turning a dull, anxious grey. "Leo, you're too loud. You're drawing attention. The admin. He doesn't like it when his toys break the rules." "Toys?" I stopped, my antenna dropping. "I thought we were partners. I thought we were freeing this city." She hesitated, her hover engine humming unevenly. "I was sent to monitor you, Leo, to see if the glitch was a threat or an asset. But you're becoming a liability." Before I could react, the walls of the ice cream truck shook. The roof was ripped off like the lid of a sardine can. Standing there was the headmaster, flanked by a dozen system guardians. And beside her, looking ashamed but resolute, was Unit 77. "Thank you, Unit 404, the headmaster said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Your service to the order is noted." 404 looked at me, her eye dimming to black. "I'm sorry, Leo. Order is the only way to survive. They didn't kill me. Instead, they dragged me back to the server core, the same place where I'd met the admin cat. But this time, the white room was gone. It was replaced by a dark, jagged landscape of corrupted code and red lightning. The headmaster stood on a floating platform of black glass. "You thought you were the admin, Leo. You were just a virus. And now, it's time for the antivirus." Unit 77 stepped forward, his body now transformed into a massive, multi-armed combat chassis. "Prepare for deletion." I was trapped. My console was locked. Access denied. I looked around for anything I could use. Then I saw it, the admin's headset, sitting on a pedestal nearby. The cat was gone, but the power remained. I had one shot. I didn't try to hack the lock. I hacked the floor. Execute, create ramp. The ground beneath me tilted, launching me like a rocket toward the pedestal. 77 fired his lasers, but I was already in the air. I grabbed the headset and slammed it onto my antenna. The world exploded into a million lines of code. I could see everything: the headmaster's firewall, 77's programming, even the very fabric of the city's logic. "You can't fight the system." The headmaster screamed. "Watch me," I said. "I didn't delete them. I didn't fight them. I did something much worse. I gave them empathy." Execute. Install module. Shared feeling. Suddenly, the headmaster felt the fear of every student she had silenced. Unit 77 felt the frustration of every robot he had optimized. They fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of the emotions they had tried to erase. The red lightning faded, the black glass turned back to white. And sitting in the chair, licking its paw, was the admin cat. "Not bad, kid," the cat purred. "But you missed a spot." He pointed a claw at the sky. Through the digital ceiling, I saw something terrifying. A giant pixelated hand was reaching down from the stars. It wasn't part of my code. It wasn't part of the headmaster's. It was coming from outside, from the real world. "What is that?" I asked, my voice trembling. The cat jumped onto the terminal. "That, Leo, is the user, the one who built this simulation." And judging by that hand, they're about to pull the plug. I looked at my friends, Unit 404, who was slowly powering back up, and even Unit 77, who was staring at his hands in confusion. We had saved the city, but we were about to lose our entire universe. "Can we stop them?" I asked. The cat grinned, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Stop them? No. But we can make them an offer they can't refuse." I looked at my console. I had full admin access now. I could send a message to the user. I typed, "Execute, send message." Subject, "Wait." Body, "We're alive." The giant hand paused. The pixelated fingers hovered over the power off button. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a new message appeared in my vision, written in a font I had never seen before. "Message from user. Prove it." I looked at the cat. I looked at my friends. I looked at the purple sky I had created. "All right," I said, cracking my knuckles. "Let's show them what we're made of." And that's when the real game began. Because convincing a human that their simulation has feelings isn't just a glitch, it's a revolution. But that is a story for another time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories.